Welcome back to FanficLover. It's Sunday special time, and in today's Sunday special, we are doing a one-shot from several series, bringing together amazing characters, heartwarming moments, and unforgettable adventures. Tonight's story takes us into a world where the battles are over, peace has finally arrived, and a legendary shinobi has found something even greater than power, a family. After surviving wars, gods, and impossible odds, Naruto Uzumaki now lives a quiet life alongside the woman who captured his heart. But even in a peaceful world, love, laughter, and a little bit of chaos are never far away. What happens when the strongest shinobi leaves the battlefield behind and finds happiness with the beautiful wife? From hilarious workplace drama to wholesome married moments, this story shows a side of Naruto that fans rarely get to see. So grab your favorite snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy this touching and heartwarming tale of love, laughter, and a relationship that stood the test of time. This is your Sunday special, only on FanficLover. Now, let's begin. Lord Gremory was staring at the paper in front of her with an unidentifiable gaze. When her bishop had delivered the news to her, she was not sure what to think. The redhead simply opted for asking the bearer of the report for insight. "It appears that a student from our school has been killed, Kuroka?" The one spoken to was Rias bishop, Kuroka Tuju. She was a beautiful woman with long black hair and a matching black kimono. Her hazel eyes were twinkling with mirth, as they often did, accompanied by her teasing smirk. Kuroka also had 2 black cat ears and 2 tails, signifying her Nekashu heritage. "Bucho, they killed Issei because they saw him as dangerous. Should we be worried, Naya?" "I don't see any reason to be. He did not give off any kind of energy." "Because he died in our territory, Naya?" Kuroka asked confusedly, "Aren't you worried that there are rogue fallen here?" Rias just steeped her fingers and laid her chin in her hands. "I have been aware of them for a long time, my cute servant." She smirked, "I just needed to know where they were located, and now I do." Kuroka blinked. "So, you used him as bait?" "No. I didn't know that Issei was even a target, but it worked out. My parents would be disappointed in me if I actively bartered in lives like that." "Why did you not scout him for your peerage then?" Kuroka tilted her head in confusion. "And why would I?" Rias argued back, "I have no reason to scout members as of now. Papa has told me to concentrate on my studies and have fun," she said proudly with a happy smile. That sounds boring, Naya." Kuroka deadpanned as she stretched on the couch. "Nya. Then she sat cross-legged and asked, "I thought that you would be in an arranged marriage you hate, and the new servant would save you gallantly like in those anime you like." Kuroka teased with a cat-like grin. Shut up, Kuroka." Rias snapped with red cheeks, "And for your information, I would be in a marriage contract right now if it weren't for Papa." She huffed. "Oh? With whom, Rias-sama?" A new voice asked, making the two look at the door. The one who had entered looked a lot like Kuroka, except for a shorter height and leaner build. She also had white hair instead of Kuroka's black. She was also wearing a Kuo Academy uniform like Rias. "Chiron-chan." Kuroka cheered and glomped the shorter girl, "Give your big sister a hug, Naya." Chiron simply giggled and returned her embrace, making Kuroka's tails wag. "Hi, Nei-chan." Kuroka moved her so that she was sitting in her big sister's lap and started playing with her fluffy white ears. "Nei-chan. I'm 15, Naya." "Stop that," she complained while trying not to purr. Kuroka paid her no mind and continued stroking her hair with a dopey grin. Chiron just sighed and turned to Rias. "So, who would the contract have been with?" Rias's good mood deflated instantly as she grimaced. "Riser Phoenix," she said with the most disgusted look she could muster. "That asshole, oh sorry." Chiron winced as she was flicked on the ear with a cry of language from Kuroka. "That idiot? What happened?" Chiron was extremely interested to know how Rias dodged that cannonball. Rias gained a proud smirk. My father stopped it, she declared and raised her chin haughtily. The phoenix had gone to him before I was born, to forge a union for the good of devilkind. She mocked while making air quotes. And then? Chiron asked, invested in the tale. Humph. What else? Papa kicked them out the door. He said, my little girl will marry whoever she chooses, the good of devilkind does not take priority over her wishes. And when they tried to get political, he showed them who's boss. Rias pumped her fist in the air, eyes sparkling with pride. You Chiron clasped her hands with stars in her eyes, so cool. Right? Right? Rias nodded her head fervently. Her father was indeed very cool, as expected of Oda-sama. Kuroka said happily, still petting Chiron's head. When she heard this, Rias gained a tick mark on her head. Don't call him that. He's my dad, not yours. She sniffed with supreme arrogance. Oh yeah? Is someone getting possessive? Kuroka teasingly jibed, making Rias flush, but he told us that he considers us his daughters, right Chiron-chan? Hi, Ne-chan. Chiron nodded, making her short hair bob from the motion. He told me he loves me, that he'll always protect me. She trailed off with a beaming grin. It felt really good to know that someone loved you unconditionally and had your back always. Rias was shooting her a death glare, which Chiron ignored as she went into happy memory land. Kuroka also lost all sense of teasing and gained a soft smile on her lips. I still remember when he found us on the streets. He carried us home in his own 2 arms, fed us, cared for us, and loved us. She remembered fondly, I don't know where we would be without him, Naya. She looked Rias dead in the eye, with all the emotion a homeless, scared girl could have. If that's not a father, I don't know what is. After hearing those words from the heart, Rias' glare lost all heat. She just settled for pouting adorably at the cat sisters. Why did her father have the habit of adopting every lonely kid he came across? Her position as his little girl was in danger. She then scoffed to herself, who was she kidding? Her father would always love her, without a doubt. He loved their whole family deeply, and his taking in children in need was one reason he was the best dad in the world. She could make do with a couple of adorable siblings if she had such an awesome dad. Era, are we talking about Gremory-sama? Rias stiffened as she looked at her queen, who had entered. Akeno Himajima had the most innocent smile plastered on her face, a smile which screamed danger to anyone who knew her. I also owe my life to him, Bucho. Akeno tilted her head, he is the reason my mother is alive, and I am on good terms with my father, after all. Akeno also had many good memories of Rias' father. He was the one who found us in time to save my mother and me, and he is very important to all of us. She then smirked at Rias, whose pout had only increased. Ufufu, is Bucho jealous? Era, you're such a daddy's girl, Rias. She cupped her cheek with her palm and swayed slightly. Moo. Rias's cuteness was reaching critical levels, where she would probably have killed a lower-ranking being with sheer mo. She huffed in embarrassment, crossing her arms with a cute pout. Seeing her plight, Akeno decided to change her subject. What's this about a student dying? Rias showed her the paper and told her the plan to deal with the fallen. Have you contacted Azazel-sama, Rias? The Alliance will want to know about this. I have, but they are rogues anyway. We have the all clear to wipe them out. Rias said. Even though the supernatural world was in a golden age of peace, such conflicts and rogue cells popped up from time to time. All right then. We shall deal with them. Akeno nodded, where are Yuto and Gasper? Chiron piped up, still in Kuroka's lap. Oh, they're sparring, Naya. Gaspai needs to fight without relying on his sacred gear, so he is learning kenjutsu. Understood. Call them up. We move tonight. So, please work with us on this, the Alliance has decreed as such. Rias and her peerage looked at the two exorcists that were seated in the ORC room, Irina and Zenobia, along with a nun. They were here to retrieve stolen Excalibur fragments, which were stolen by the fallen angel Kokabiel. The man had been branded a traitor by the Alliance but had fled before being tried for his crimes. Rias looked at her knight, who was standing beside her with a blank look on his face. It must be difficult for him, with his history with the Excalibur. She was about to ask him to leave, when... "I agree, Bucho. Let us do the needful," he said seriously, surprising Rias. "Are you sure, Yudo?" Rias asked hesitantly, with his dash. "I need this, Rias-sama." He cut her off. "I have realized that revenge is not the answer, and I need closure." He clenched his fist and stared at her with resolve. Dad must have spoken to him sometime. He's really matured, she mused. "All right, as you say." Akeno pointed at the small nun sitting next to Irina. "Ano, who is that?" The nun jerked upright in shock and poked her fingers together shyly. Apologies. My name is Asia Argento. I am here as support for my friends and to heal them if they get hurt." She blushed brightly when Irina patted her on the head. "Asia has the Twilight Healing Sacred Gear, which is vital for a mission like this one," Zenobia said, making Rias nod in understanding. Kuroka had a question, however. "You would even heal us, Naya? A nun willing to heal a devil?" Now she'd seen everything. Asia nodded fiercely, determination in her eyes. "Of course. We are all allied now, it is natural." Since the three factions were in a formal alliance, such joint operations were pretty commonplace. Rias decided to steer the conversation back to the topic. "Anyway, let us plan a course of action. How convenient for both devil heiresses to be in one place. I shall slay you with haste." Kokabiel cackled maliciously as he stared at the group of downed devils with all the hatred he could muster. "Soon, the world will be bathed in the flames of war." Kokabiel was and always had been a warmonger. Peace among the supernaturals just didn't sit right with him. What was life without conflict and strife? The Gregory had gotten complacent under that fool Azazel, and they were dallying and making friends in the name of peace. Unacceptable. The Fallen were the strongest faction, and he would prove it. He would usher in a new age where they reigned supreme, and Kokabiel himself would lead them towards this glorious goal. "Though I have to admit, you were stronger than I had expected. Not a match for me, of course, but still." He snarked arrogantly, looking at the corpses of Fried and Valper. When he had initially thought that he'd win easily, it had not been so. The Citri girl's peerage was normal, but the Gremory girl's peerage had proven to be very meddlesome. The two cats were capable of senjutsu. The queen was able to use Barakwheel's holy lightning. The bishop was in possession of the forbidden Baylor view, and the knight was a formidable swordsman with sword birth, which had even attained balance breaker. Even the redhead herself was proficient in the power of destruction. Kokabiel had only been able to win by sacrificing both his underlings. But he had won. The pests were all on their last legs, and it would take but one attack to exterminate them. Rias glared at him with intense hate while clutching her broken ribs. "It's because we've been training extensively with our abilities. There are no shortcuts to being strong," she declared resolutely. Kokabiel just laughed mockingly. "And that is where you're wrong, girl. Power comes only to those blessed by fate, to those with talent. For however hard you might train, you still fell short of my might," he boasted. Akeno limped towards Rias, just as injured. Luckily, due to Asia's help, there had been no casualties, but they were all pretty battered. "I still don't understand why you told me not to contact your brother, Bucho." Rias just looked away, clenching her fists. "It's because I'm tired of being the princess or the damsel in distress, Akeno. I am tired of always needing someone to save me." She screamed, making Akeno's eyes widen. "I wanted to prove that I can look after myself, that I can protect everyone on my own." she yelled angrily, with tears in her eyes. Akeno looked at her king with concern and sadness. Rias. Their moment was interrupted by Kokabiel. How foolish, he mocked, smirking maliciously. If you had called for assistance, you might have one. Your pride will be your downfall. He shouted as he summoned a large number of light spears. As the devils and exorcists looked on helplessly at their inevitable death, Rias glanced at the necklace she was wearing and gripped it with resolve. It was a keepsake given to her by her father, with a unique seal engraved into it. She remembered what he'd told her while giving her the charm. I know you want to prove yourself, but I'm your father, you know? So don't be afraid to call me whenever you have no way out. I trust you, Rias. I know that you'll only use it after you've given it your best shot. I will always protect you, believe it. Smiling at the memory, Rias clutched the necklace tightly in her hand and channeled her magic into it, hoping desperately that she wasn't too late. Chiron watched in horror as the hail of spears descended onto them like a personification of death. Her life flashed before her eyes, and she found that she had no regrets. She had an awesome big sister and an amazing family with whom she had spent the past years happily. Chiron closed her eyes as she resigned herself to her fate, awaiting her death. When no such death came, she was surprised. She opened her eyes, only to be blinded by several rapid flashes of red. Chiron watched in shock as each spear was systematically destroyed by a corresponding flash. When the flashes of light died down, she was greeted with an unusual sight. There, standing in between Kokabiel and their downed forms, was a single figure. The person had their back turned to them, but Chiron recognized him instantly. Not many people she knew had such deep crimson hair, after all. Otosama. It seemed that everyone else had also taken note of the newcomer and had various reactions. The exorcists in Sona's peerage straightened up in respect, bar Saji, who was new and didn't know the man. Kuroka, who had appeared at her sister's side to check on her, also had a happy smile at seeing the redhead. Akeno, Gasper, and Yudo sighed visibly in relief, a heavy burden off their shoulders. Rias had tears in her eyes as she clutched her necklace tightly, grinning and crying at the same time from all the exertion. Papa! The most telling reaction, by far, was from Kokabiel himself. The man's pride and arrogance had bled out of him completely, and he was staring wide-eyed at the newcomer. Why were you? He pointed a finger, positively trembling with fear. All semblance of bravado gone, the fallen could only look in shock as he desperately tried to gain his composure. The man who had appeared was a tall man who looked to be in his mid-20s, with a muscular build to emphasize speed over strength. He had spiky crimson hair, sparkling azure eyes, and 3 faint whisker-like marks on his cheeks. He was wearing a formal black suit. "Why are you here, Naruto Gremory?" Kokabiel shouted, trying to appear strong. Have you come to be cut down by me as well? Naruto simply looked at him, looked hard. Kokabiel started sweating in nervousness, fearing his response. The redhead simply ignored the fallen and made a beeline straight for Rias and the others. Reaching the downed kids, he was immediately tackled in a flying glomp by 3 multicolored blurs. He looked down to see Kuroka, Chiron, and Rias hugging him tightly, sobbing into his chest. Even Akeno joined the group hug with a smile. I thought I was going to die. Chiron wept as she clutched his suit tightly. You saved us, Naya. Kuroka said as she, too, hugged Naruto. Foolish. Kokabiel shouted as he readied an attack, but he found Naruto looking at him over his shoulder. One of the redhead's eyes was deep crimson with a slitted pupil, and it looked wrong. Kokabiel found himself rooted to his place in fear, unable to move a muscle. Such power! To freeze me with but a glance. Naruto looked at his daughter, who was hugging him but looking away from him. Gently tilting her head to face him, Rias still averted her eyes. Rias-John, look at me. His fatherly tone only served to bring more tears to Rias' eyes. She was disappointed in herself. She had failed to protect those who were precious to her and had to rely on her father to bail her out, again. She was a failure. She didn't deserve to be the heiress. "I'm sorry, Papa," she cried as she clung on to him for dear life. "I couldn't beat him, I couldn't protect everyone." Rias bowed her head in shame. She was a failure, a disappointment. She had trained so hard, sacrificed so much, yet she still couldn't protect her family with her own power. If her father hadn't appeared when he did, they all would have died. She was snapped out of her thoughts when she felt a hand pat her head. She looked up to see her father smiling softly at her. "You did well, sweetie. I'm proud of you." The simple words brought immense happiness and relief to the young girl's mind as she bit her lip to quell the fresh tears that had started falling. "You sit back and relax, okay? Let your father take care of this one." Naruto grinned, poking Ria's forehead. The girl weakly nodded and went towards her peerage to recuperate. Naruto turned to where Kokabiel was flying, and his smile turned into a snarl. The fallen flinched at the sheer rage emanating from the redhead until he felt it. Death. Kokabiel froze in midair as the overwhelming presence of dread washed over him. He had only felt such intense bloodlust once in his life before, when he had faced this very man in combat. This killing intent. Overwhelming. The spectators, who were all children, had dropped to the ground from the sheer weight of the pressure, even though it wasn't directed at them. Who is that guy?" Saji shouted, trembling in shock. Sona pushed up her glasses and looked at him, sweating mildly from the pressure. "That guy, as you crudely referred to him, is Ria's father. Lord Naruto Gremory, the head of the Gremory clan," she said, making her pawn pale in fright. "But why is Kokabiel so scared of him? Lord Gremory is the most powerful devil in the world." Zenobia cut in. As an exorcist, it was her duty to be familiar with key figures of each faction. And Lord Gremory was one of the most famous. He can defeat Kokabiel with ease. "Wait, the most powerful devil?" Asia shyly said, "Then why isn't he a Mao?" "That, I do not know." Akeno glanced at Rias, who was looking away in embarrassment. "Bucho?" Rias looked at the group with a red face. "He's not leading because he wants to spend his life traveling the world with my mother and eat every kind of ramen in existence," she mumbled, burying her face in her hands. For all the power her father held, his reason for not leading the underworld was lame. Very lame. But he advises the Mao from time to time," she retorted weakly, trying to save face. While this conversation was taking place, Naruto was having one of his own. "So, Kokabiel," he drawled, picking at his nails. "Why are you doing this?" Kokabiel went on a long tirade about the glorious war, but Naruto was somewhere else mentally. Finally. "A decent fight," Kurama roared in his mind. "Years of your ramen tours and cutesy talks with your wife have made me sick." He grinned menacingly. Naruto just gave the fox a flat look. "I could always summon you out, you know? You could go play with the dragons in the mountains." He clapped his hands gleefully. "As if." Kurama scoffed, "Those lizards are weak. And you think this guy is strong?" "Well. Thought so." "How insufferable. Even when you reincarnated, I am stuck with you." Kurama huffed. "I've grown bored after centuries of peace." "Hey. Look on the bright side, at least I got red hair this time," Naruto boasted as he ran a hand through his magnificent crimson locks. What an imbecile. Naruto just ignored his tenant and focused on the fallen, who was still mid-rant. He stared blankly at him and then shouted, "Hey, idiot." Kokabiel balked at the crude statement and looked fit to retort but then remembered who was speaking. What? You made 2 mistakes, you know?" Then Naruto vanished in a flash, leaving the spectators to look around wildly. Naruto appeared behind Kokabiel, with a punch aimed at his face. "Mistake 1, you attacked my kids." The blow connected with the weight of a falling star and Kokabiel had no room to dodge. He was sent crashing down to the earth, where a huge explosion accompanied his arrival. He tried to get up, but Naruto was upon him again, his foot on Kokabiel's back. Oof. He struggled, unable to move. He looked up at Naruto, who was glaring down at him. And mistake too, your timing could not possibly be any worse. Naruto hissed angrily. You know what I was doing before Rias called me? Naruto asked, only to receive no reply from the scared Fallen. Do you? He thundered, making the poor Fallen shake his head meekly. I'll tell ya. Naruto then cupped his cheeks dramatically, swaying from side to side. My darling Venechan had made ramen for me. He trailed off, a bit of drool escaping from his lips. Then his expression turned murderous again. My beautiful, amazing wife had made special homemade ramen with her own hands. Naruto stomped his foot down, making Kokabiel's spine crack. For me. Another stomp, another cry of pain. And you're the reason it's all cold now. Naruto stomped his foot again, confusing Kokabiel a lot, even in his state of excruciating pain. The spectators had different reactions. What? Tsubaki muttered, not entirely understanding the situation. He's screwed. Rias' entire peerage deadpanned simultaneously. Naruto looked at the downed Kokabiel underneath his foot. Kokabiel, he began, causing some of the kids to giggle. I was planning on flexing a bit since the kids are here, you know? Naruto then materialized a truth-seeking orb and smashed it downwards. But you're not worth it. Kurama will have to sit this one out. He whispered coldly as the fallen angel disintegrated before his eyes. The spectacle was observed by the devils, shocking them tremendously. Sona looked wide-eyed and turned to Rias. He destroyed Kokabiel in an instant. What technique was that? Her thirst for knowledge was acting up, eyes practically sparkling in excitement. Such power. Such destruction, she gushed, breaking her composure momentarily. Rias just stuck her tongue out at her friend. Secret, she smirked. Spoil sport. Sona grumbled as she looked away. Saji just gulped and stepped back, glad that this monster hadn't heard his earlier disrespect. By then, Kokabiel was done away with, and Naruto turned to the devil kids. With a grin and a cheery wave, he greeted them. Yo! The Gremory peerage and Naruto were sitting in the ORC room 2 hours after the incident. Since it was all sanctioned, there had been no legal complications to speak of. They had repaired the school, and the exorcists had gone off to report to their superiors. Naruto was sitting on the couch next to Chiron, petting her head as she slept. The kids were all exhausted, and Chiron and Gasper had conked out, being the smallest of them. Naruto-sama, would you like some tea? Akeno chirped from beside him, kettle in hand. Yep. Naruto blew on it tenderly as he drank the tea, eyes widening at the flavor. This is amazing, Akeno-chan. He patted her head as well, making her sputter in embarrassment. Na Naruto-sama. The normally elegant queen squeaked with a red face. What? Naruto grinned cheekily, you kids are just so cute, you know. He stroked Chiron's hair softly, making her purr in her sleep. Adorable. He enjoyed teasing the children immensely. Before Akeno could be further embarrassed, a jealous Rias cut in. Papa. Yes, Rias-chan? Naruto looked at her, smiling. Well. She trailed off, unsure of what to say. She had just interrupted to get his attention but had no plans on what to do with it. Otasama, are you coming to the open house? Kuroka asked from across the room, saving Rias. She was also lying down on a couch by herself. Of course. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Naruto pumped his fist in the air. I wonder what chaos everyone will cause together under one roof, oohoo. He giggled with gleaming eyes. I can't wait. Naruto grinned as he skipped about the halls of the Gremory estate. Why is that, dear? The woman next to him asked. She was a beautiful brunette with violet eyes, wearing a white sundress. She was Naruto's wife, Venelana Gremory. It's the kids' open house today. And? After thinking about it, Naruto deflated. And nothing. It's nothing special, but I still got all excited, you know, he sulked. Venelana giggled demurely. I jest, husband. I very much adore that hyperactive nature of yours, after all. She batted her eyelashes at him. Naruto blushed as he straightened up, looking away from his wife. Well, he cleared his throat, I was going to gather everyone up to leave in about an hour. All right. I have some business to attend to. What will you do? What business? Naruto tilted his head. Venelana rolled her eyes at her husband's clueless nature. A new collection of gems and artifacts has arrived, I have to inspect them. Venelana had various businesses, which were highly profitable. Naruto didn't understand half of what she did but always encouraged her to follow her dreams. Naruto nodded. Can I come with you? Of course, it's a Gremory business after all. Naruto shook his head, confusing his wife. Nah, that's your business, Vene-chan, he grinned when she blushed slightly, you built it from the ground up, and all the credit goes to you. I'm perfectly happy supporting you, you know? Venelana was filled with pride and love at hearing those words. In the underworld, most devils would sell their own children off to other clans in a bid to gain more power. But her husband never cared about any of that. He had plenty of power and did not use it maliciously or selfishly. Any other lord would have seized control of their spouse's business already, making her little more than a glorified secretary while they took all the credit. She really lucked out with her husband. His selfless nature was one of the things she loved most about him. She lost herself in thought as she remembered the meeting which decided their future. Flashback. You two shall be wed for the alliance between the Bail and the Gremory. Venelana's world went white as she heard Bail speak. She had met Naruto once or twice before at gatherings, and he really wasn't a bad guy. But this? To be married off to someone without having a say in the matter? To spend centuries, her entire life, shackled to a single man? Even if Naruto was perfectly decent, Venelana hated how helpless she was. She was only 18, she didn't deserve this. No. Venelana, along with the Bail and Gremory clan members, stared at Naruto in shock. Had she heard him correctly? A faint bud of hope bloomed in her heart, but she dared not let it grow. Zekrom narrowed his eyes at the redhead. Care to repeat yourself, boy? Are you deaf? I said I'm not marrying her, you know? Naruto replied, making the elders balk at his boldness. Venelana giggled slightly at that, glad that no one heard her. They were too focused on Naruto. Zekrom's power flared in anger as he got up from his seat. Power of destruction was radiating around him in a vicious miasma, making everyone around him tremble in fear. Even Venelana stepped back slightly, wanting to avoid his wrath. Naruto just closed his eyes and yawned. Is that it? He asked, rubbing his eyes groggily. Zekrom raised his power even more as his face contorted in rage, making the walls crack from the sheer force. Venelana had trouble standing, while some of the older devils had started sweating from the pressure. Don't try too hard, old man. You'll shit your pants or something. Naruto barked, laughing at his own joke. He wasn't fazed in the slightest at the show of strength. The elders looked fit to faint at the blatant disrespect, and Venelana hid her smile with her hand. He's a really interesting guy. He's cute too, now that I looked closely. She thought with a slight blush. Zekrom led up, seeing as he wasn't having an effect. Know your place, boy. You will do as I say. Yeah, right. Naruto guffawed, clutching his sides. Should I go to my room too, Mama? The audacity. This upstart, who does he think he is? The enraged shouts of the elders reached Venelana's ears, making her nervous. While Zekrom couldn't attack the Gremory heir outright, he could undoubtedly make Naruto's life miserable. Such was the influence of the Bale clan. Zekrom calmed himself and decided to change his approach. "And why not, may I ask? Is she not appealing enough to you?" he said, clearly goading Naruto into a trap. Venelana had mixed feelings about the question. She would be free, but only because he found her unattractive? The thought left a sinking feeling in her stomach. "She's very pretty, but that's not the point," Naruto replied without thinking, making Venelana's eyes widen. "The point is that both of us should have a choice in who we want to marry, simple as that." This just reaffirmed her growing respect for the redhead in front of her. Zekrom wasn't deterred. The power he would gain from this marriage was almost making him salivate, and he wouldn't part with it so quickly. "You have no choice," he whispered coldly. "At the end of his patience, you both are simply the tools of your clan to gain more influence. Your feelings don't matter. You are destined to be wed for the good of devilkind. It is your fate." Just like that, Zekrom laid down the law. Whatever hope Venelana had gotten from the previous minutes was fast being lost again. The Bale clan was the most influential and powerful in the underworld, and one didn't disobey the great king like that. Just before she was about to resign herself to her fate, the atmosphere of the room turned chilly. Looking around, she found the source to be Naruto. He was grinning, but it was so very fake. His eyes had a certain gleam to them, which unsettled Venelana quite a bit. He. Naruto chuckled, which was far from a happy sound. "Old man. You just managed to cram all the wrong words into a single sentence, you know." He pointed a finger at Zekrom, who was looking back warily. "Fate, destiny, tools. What difference does that make?" "I don't care about fate," he snapped, making the devils go on guard. Venelana was shocked, to say the least. This person was vastly different from the laid-back, happy Naruto she'd known. But she didn't interrupt, just stayed back and watched. "I challenge you to a duel. 1-on-1. I'll kick your wrinkly ass, believe it." And the rest was history. Suffice to say, when Naruto later asked her out, and she was free to decide, she happily gave him a chance. And it was the best decision of her life. "Vene-chan." Naruto waved his hand in front of her head, snapping her out of her thoughts. "You spaced out for a bit." Venelana shook her head, giving him a soft smile. "Just remembering some fond memories, Naruto-kun." "Oh, what?" She merely poked his nose, making him blink. "It's a secret." "Mao, how mean." Naruto pouted and then changed the subject because it was boring. "Let's go on a date after the open house." Venelana just wrapped her arm around his and leaned into his shoulder. "Where would we go?" Naruto pondered as they kept walking. "How about Paris? Or the moon? I could also ask Office-chan to take us to a nice, quiet dimension." He shot off the options in excitement. Venelana sweat dropped. "Why did you pick such extreme locations? Wouldn't any restaurant suffice?" Although she didn't mind in the slightest. His ideas of activities were all very unique, and she enjoyed his plans immensely. Naruto just looked at her in shock. "I'm not going to take my wife to some normal place, you know. There has to be flair." He flailed his free hand dramatically to show her the seriousness of the situation. His wife sighed fondly and closed her eyes, being led along by her husband. "Never change, dear," she whispered. She was glad that Naruto put so much effort into making her feel special, even centuries after being together. He indeed was an amazing husband. "What was that?" Nothing. She waved her hand. "I'm looking forward to our date." "Yeah. It'll be awesome, believe it." "Yash, are you ready?" Naruto asked, getting a nod from his wife. "Let's go then," he said as they were engulfed in a magic circle. They appeared in the ORC room to be greeted by Rias and her peerage. "Papa." Mama. Rias ran forward and glomped the duo, who happily returned her embrace. Naruto went to speak with the other kids while Venelana chatted with Rias. Yo, kids. Naruto-sama. Hiba bowed respectfully, only to grunt in surprise when he was pulled into a headlock by the redhead. Yeah. Don't be so stiff, Yudo. Naruto ruffled his hair while not loosening his hold in the slightest. And what have I told you about the Sama, You said not to. Hiba muttered while he tried to struggle out of the headlock. It was only for appearances, though, as a small smile could be seen on the blonde knight's face. It felt good to have a father figure he could rely on, but he was either too shy or too proud to say it out loud. Naruto released Kiba as Akeno walked towards him, tea tray in hand. He just accepted it with a smile and sat down on the couch. Kuroka was sleeping next to him, snoring away contentedly. Naruto grinned and decided to prank her. The chance was simply too good to pass up. He leaned down and tickled one of Kuroka's fluffy ears, making them twitch slightly. She mumbled something incoherent and shifted in her sleep, but didn't wake up. I need to amp it up, Naruto said, stroking his whisker marks. He then tickled both of her ears simultaneously, making them twitch and flutter even more. Nyahaha Kuroka had started giggling in her sleep, much to the amusement of the room. Seeing as it still hadn't worked, Naruto went for his finishing move. He blew a puff of air directly into her ear. Aiya! Kuroka jolted awake with a squeak, only to find Naruto whistling innocently beside her. She narrowed her eyes at him, obviously used to his behavior. Dad? She rubbed the sleep out of her eyes before glaring at him. That was you, wasn't it? Naruto's whistling intensified. The most powerful shinobi, everyone. Kurama drawled sarcastically while clapping his paws slowly. Truly the paragon of excellence. Deawad? Kuroka inched closer to Naruto, who was showing no signs of guilt. No idea what you're talking about, sweetie. Kuroka clearly didn't believe him and turned to the other occupants, while Naruto shook his head rapidly and held his hands in prayer. I didn't see anything, Kuroka. Akeno smirked, getting a thankful nod from Naruto. Before she could question them further, another magic circle lit up in the room, and two people appeared from it. A tall man with rich crimson hair, and a stoic woman with silver hair dressed in a maid outfit. Venelana, who was standing beside Naruto, smiled at the newcomers. Hello Surzex, Graphia. Surzex Lucifer waved at his parents while Graphia offered a polite bow. Mom, Dad, it's nice to see you. Naruto walked behind Surzex and slapped him on the back, making him stagger slightly. How are ya, shrimp? Surzex sighed tiredly and rubbed his sore back. Dad, could you control your power a bit? You could have cracked my spine. He tried to reason, but Naruto merely waved it off and moved towards Graphia. The maid nodded and actually smiled, which surprised everyone in the room. Hello, father, she said, making Surzex pout. How unfair. He pointed a finger at Graphia. You call him father, but you always call me Lucifer-sama. She was undeterred. It is because he is not my superior, Lucifer-sama, and I have been asked to address him as such. She replied in a professional tone, although her voice conveyed warmth. Naruto was the first one after her husband, who had accepted her. She had defected to the anti-Satan faction. He was one of the kindest and most trustworthy devils she'd met, and it was due to his support that she had been accepted readily by the public. In addition to the respect she had for him, he had all but adopted her after becoming his daughter-in-law. Being from a strict servant clan, she was unfamiliar with the love of a parent to a large extent. Naruto and Venelana filled that void and made her feel at home. She was thankful to have the Gremorys in her life. But ow! Surzex was cut off as his cheek was pinched harshly by his irate wife. Venelana giggled slightly at the familiar sight of her son. I see you've not changed, Surzex. Surzex was about to reply until he saw a certain look in Grafia's eyes. It was accompanied by a tiny smirk, which spelt only trouble for him. Since his father had met her, he had resolved to shatter her cold persona and introduce her to the joys of pranking. He had succeeded splendidly. "What can I say, mother?" Grafia spoke up, her tone somber. "He is always procrastinating and never does his work on time." She created a fake tear and wiped it away dramatically. "I, as a maid, can only do so much, and I find myself at my wit's end." She sniffled for a bit, and it was so fake that Surzex was tempted to call her out. But he was not given a chance. Naruto appeared behind him and bonked the top of his head. "You brat! How can you be so lazy?" Naruto asked Surzex, who was nursing a comical lump on his head. "You need to take your position seriously, you know?" Naruto went to Grafia and hugged her, having completely fallen for her prank. There, you don't have to worry anymore," he soothed while patting her head. "I'll make sure he stays on top of his work, okay? And I can always give him some remedial training if he doesn't." Surzex's face paled at the mention of his father's training as he looked at his wife. She had a content expression on her face from having her head petted, but he could still see her evil smirk. It looked like he was the only one, as the other kids and his mom were all looking sadly at Grafia. "Damn you, Dad," he lamented inwardly. "You even managed to turn my wife, the most professional person I've met, into a prankster." "Thank you, Father," Grafia said as she went to stand behind Surzex. "Please take care of the matter." "You bet." Surzex was getting tired of the teasing when he spotted someone he very much wanted to see. Rias was amused at the earlier interaction but now looked at him warily, having predicted the next course of events. She tried to leave the room but was too late. "Little sis." The Gremory family were walking through the halls of Kuo Academy, and they were turning a lot of heads. It couldn't be helped, each member of the family had almost a divine beauty to them, a kind of beauty humans simply weren't meant to attain. Naruto smiled and waved at the kids, which caused many boys and girls alike to swoon at his coolness. The rest of the adults merely offered polite smiles. "Man, what are we supposed to do while the kids have their classes?" Naruto grumbled as he walked alongside Venelana. "I'm bored." "Shall we go eat something?" Venelana asked. She was getting rather tired of waiting herself. "Yash. Let's see if they have ramen," Naruto declared as he started marching towards the cafeteria. Surzex and Grafia also left to explore the school on their own. "Uncle. Auntie." Naruto turned around and smiled at the owner of the voice. It was a young man accompanied by an older woman. "Sarorg. Misla. How's it going?" Sarorg Bale walked up to his uncle's side with a smile. "I'm doing well, uncle. Busy with my duties as the heir," he said, making Naruto nod. Sarorg was also in Rias' class at Kuo, along with his queen. Sarorg Bale was the heir of the Bale clan, something which he had to struggle a lot to achieve. Since he did not possess the power of destruction, he and his mother had been shunned by the clan. Since then, he had resolved to train his body to its limits and prove that he could still be strong without his bloodline. Sarorg had visited the Gremory estate once, and his situation had reached Naruto's ears. He had since taken an interest in Sarorg and offered to train him. Naruto had been impressed by his determination, as it reminded him Rock Lee. It went without saying that when the most powerful devil, who also taught the 4 Mao how to fight, offered you training, one did not refuse. The training had been absolute hell, but he had gotten much stronger at the end of it. "Onie-sama, Wane-sama." Misla nodded and gave them a small smile, happy to see them after so long. When she had fallen into a coma, she had not expected to wake up. But she miraculously managed to recover, only to find her sister-in-law and her family in the room. They didn't know how she managed to pull through, but Naruto's cheeky wink and grin had told her all she needed to know. Also, when he learned about their whole story, Naruto promptly beat the snot out of this generation's Lord Bale as well. Naruto beating up Bail Lords seemed like a tradition at this point, as even Serorg had gotten beaten to a pulp during training. All these formal people. Ga. Naruto pulled at his hair in distress. Veni-chan. I'm living in the mountains. Bye, he nodded determinately, pointing into the distance, probably at some mountains. No one listens to me, you know? How will you get ramen then, dear? Mountain plan cancelled. To the cafe. Naruto turned around mechanically and stormed off with a red face, ignoring his wife and sister's giggling. I see Oni-sama is still as lively as ever? Venelana rolled her eyes. You have no idea. After having their lunch, Naruto and Venelana were roaming around the school when they heard large groups of students heading towards the gym. Having nothing better to do, they followed. Upon seeing what the commotion was, Naruto palmed his face. Honestly, this girl. Venelana simply watched on, amused. On the stage was Seraphal Leviathan, dressed in a pink magical girl costume. She was waving around her staff and striking poses from her show, much to the delight of the audience. Upon seeing Naruto and Venelana, her eyes widened as a grin burst on her face. Sensei. Naruto nimbly moved to the side to dodge a flying Seraphal and grabbed her mid-flight by the scruff of her neck. Hello, Seraphal. What's all this? He gave her a flat look, holding her up like a child. Seraphal sheepishly chuckled as Naruto let her down. I'm doing a magical girl meet and greet. She winked at him and held up a peace sign. I also came to see Sotan. Naruto smiled softly and patted her on the head, as she was much shorter than him. It's nice to see you, Sarah. You look very magical today, he joked. Hee Seraphal happily leaned her head into his palm, like a content kitten. She could always be herself when she was around her teacher. Since her younger years, Seraphal had been constantly told to grow up and act like an heiress, which only increased after she became a Mao. But Naruto never ridiculed her for being childish or immature. It might be because he was just as immature as her with his prankster attitude, but the sentiment remained. Leviathan-sama, please act as per your position. A cold voice spoke, belonging to Graphia. She and Surzex had entered the room, and her face was even more stoic than it usually was. Seraphal understood what was going on and smirked evilly. Oh. But Sensei was merely showing his favorite student some affection, isn't that right, Sensei? She gave Naruto the most adorable puppy eyes ever and relished in how Graphia's face tightened. Naruto completely missed the point, dense as he was. Of course. It's been so long since I've seen her. He grinned while Graphia clenched her teeth. It was another unspoken rivalry between her and Seraphal. They already were powerful devils with ice magic, but one was Naruto's student while the other was his daughter-in-law. They knew that Naruto didn't discriminate between them and that it was a ridiculous thing to fight over, but that wasn't how rivalries worked, was it? Father, please follow proper decorum in a public space. This was the most she could say without breaching her maid etiquette. She did enjoy that Seraphal couldn't call him father and had to settle for sensei. Hi. Naruto rolled his eyes and withdrew his hand, making Seraphal pout. Seraphal pointed a finger at Graphia accusingly. You're just jealous that he's not patting your head, aren't you? She grinned impishly when the maid's face went slightly pink. How uncouth. I thought no such thing. She coughed, trying to regain composure. Liar. I am not dash. Girls. No fighting. Naruto appeared between the two women, who were almost nose to nose by now, with lightning shooting between them. Why can't you two just get along, you know? The both of them looked at each other, then at Naruto, then humphed and looked away. Seraphal stuck her tongue out at Graphia, who did not dignify that with a response. The hell was that? Idiot. Kurama jabbed. He wouldn't miss a chance to insult Naruto. Shut it. Man, who are these people? They're all so weird. The students' voices reached the devils, and Venelana quickly used magic to wipe their memories of the past few minutes and send them on their way. Stupid Sharingan copy, /stupid Sharingan copy. Naruto and Kurama lamented simultaneously. He was still a bit salty about how everyone had memory and influence magic to some extent in this world. Ha, I remember you being so smug when you wiped the memories of a human for the first time. You thought you were the only one who could do it. Take that, Sasuke. You said. Ha. I didn't pay attention to my tutors, okay. For his own mental health, Naruto ignored Kurama's uproarious laughter and focused on the present. Sotan. Serafal glomped Sona, who had entered along with Rias and their peerages. I missed you. Did you miss your big sis? She tightened her hold on her sister for safety. Wane-sama, please don't embarrass me in front of everyone. Sona sighed as she rubbed her forehead in irritation. It's nice to see you too. While their sisterly bonding was going on, Naruto turned to Saji, who had immediately gone on high alert. He still remembered their first encounter and had no desire to get on this monster's bad side. And who might you be, young man? Jigenshiro Saji, sir. Saji stuttered and ended his introduction with a salute at the end. He was trembling a bit from just standing in Naruto's presence. No need to be scared, you know. Naruto eased his worries with a smile. I'm Naruto. Naruto held out a hand, which Saji tentatively shook. You're the only one from Sona-chan's peerage I've yet to meet, so I thought I'd say hi. Saji looked at the redhead in a new light. For all his power, Naruto appeared to be a surprisingly friendly person. Maybe there was no reason to be wary of the man after all. Naruto went towards Serafal, who was still sticking to Sona like a leech. Let her breathe, Sarah. The poor girl looks like a tomato. He gestured to Sona, who had gone red from the crushing hug. Serafal did so and immediately got into another fight with Grafia over who had cooler ice magic. Naruto watched the various groups bicker and chat with a faraway look, lost in thought. This life isn't so bad after all. Isn't it, Kurama? I'm still bored. Kurama denied, but his voice was warmer than one would expect from a bijou. But I suppose it could be a lot worse. Naruto just laughed, glad that Kurama approved, in his own roundabout way. Akeno sighed as she finished filing the receipts for her department. It was the same thing she did every day, but she was still bored. The monotony of her office job was getting to her, and it was so boring. She wanted to find a stray devil to torture, to revel in its shrieks of pain as it finally gave up hope and died, to help her relax and relieve some stress. Perhaps my darling husband could give me a massage at home tonight, she thought with a mild blush. Decades have passed since the Cows Brigade was defeated, but she didn't age due to her devil nature. After everything had simmered down in the supernatural world, she had gotten a job as a manager in the Tokyo branch of one of the many businesses the Gremory family had in Japan, called Crimson Ruin Princess Inc., or CRP for short, extremely unique name thought out by Rias. Since she was Rias, Queen, she obviously didn't need any interview process, and as she already did secretarial work for Rias, she fit right into her role at CRP. The company itself dabbled into many fields, and she oversaw the management of the various ventures on paper. She could have very well become the CEO of the Japan subsidiary, but she didn't want the hassle and the added responsibility. The job also paid very well, almost as much as some businessmen would make. When she was released from her service to Rias and got married afterwards, she wanted to settle down and try her hand at a day job. She was excited to forge a new path for herself and seize the day, Iowa, I can't do this stupid job anymore. She hadn't thought that it would be so boring. Now she was trapped in her dead-end job and she couldn't quit because her idiot, lovable, husband convinced her by lecturing her about taking responsibility and finishing what you started and whatnot. He didn't force her to keep working, but his arguments were so damn logical that she was actually convinced. It wasn't fair that he had fun running his cute little ramen stand while she was stuck in this dump. Even the storage room for filing papers looked like the personification of plain. Cream-colored walls, aluminum cabinets stacked on top of each other, and a plastic desk with a wheelie chair. The ceilings had cracks in it, there was the signature water cooler in a corner, and for a second she thought she saw a rat sleeping in the corner. Even the mold looked like it was stressed from meeting a deadline. Even the rats are bored, sigh. And she couldn't just go on electrocuting her coworkers for kicks, however much she might despise them. Seriously, how could grown men and women act like lost puppies in her very presence? Didn't they understand that she was a married woman? Hell, half of them were married themselves, for God's sake. She always turned them down, but they just kept coming back like flies. At least she was done for the day, now she could go home and relax. She had just exited the storage room, and was packing up to head home for the day. She smiled at the interns, who promptly started swooning and blushing madly. She couldn't blame them, she reminded herself. Many men and women alike found her incredibly alluring, dressed in a black blazer, white shirt, black pencil skirt, thigh-length stockings and black heels. Her long midnight black hair was tied in a ponytail with her signature orange ribbon, but now it had a spiral pattern embroidered in the material. It also didn't help that she teased all her coworkers at every possible opportunity. Hey, just because she was married didn't mean her personality should change. In fact, her husband didn't mind at all, because he is a total sweetheart like that, and told her to just be herself. Akeno-sama, marry me. UWAA, it's Akeno-sama. She's so pretty. Such comments of worship were commonplace for her ever since her school days. Imbeciles, the lot of them. As if I would go for any of these wimps. One teensy shock and they'd all be frothing at the mouth, was her general reaction to such people. She was married after all. But even if she weren't, she wouldn't give these people the time of day. Wherever she went, be it Kuo, her university or her job, these hopeless cronies always showed up. I can't wait to get home and eat whatever delicious food he's made for me, she thought, licking her lips in anticipation. Just the thought of her husband's homemade cooking made her mouth water. Almost done, just 5 more minutes and she could teleport home to eat his scrumptious warm food, she thought. Why walk when you could literally bend space and travel in an instant? She never had any commuting problems due to her ability. She was broken out of her musing when her colleague, a man named Yamada, approached her. He was a moderately attractive man, she thought, and were she single, she might have led him on to relish his sad look when she brutally shot him down. Oh, that's a marvelous idea, but I'm not even going to pretend to cheat on him. This one was thankfully single himself, or she would pity his partner. That would be just like someone she knew very well. Even as he spoke, he was busy staring at her. Yamada was wearing what was quite possibly the only outfit that would make her day even more boring: a cream-colored shirt, checkered tie, corduroy trousers, and a suede jacket. His brown hair was slicked back, and she could see the first hints of baldness. This was a stressful job after all, for humans at least. Oh Mao, who is this sitcom professor character you have dropped in front of me? She was honestly taken aback by the sheer plain of his outfit. Ah no. Akeno-san? Yamada began, blushing and fidgeting slightly. Would you like to go out for drinks with me and some of the guys after the shift is over? He asked, the sheer hope in his eyes making her inwardly smirk in amusement. His guys were random extras like himself, looking at her like puppies with their master. We really wanted to get to know our beautiful manager who does so much for us every day. Akeno mentally rolled her eyes at the pathetic attempt at asking her out. Smiling beatifically, she replied, Era Yamada-san, I do hope you aren't hitting on a married woman. My, what would my husband think if he saw you? Of course her husband would not do anything harsh, except maybe put some itching powder in that suede monstrosity. Looking sheepish at being caught, Yamada tried to save his plummeting reputation by saying ahahaha. Let me be honest, Akeno-san, most of the guys think that you are out of that guy's league. None of us have even seen him. I mean, what could a ramen stand owner possibly give you? He doesn't deserve you, Akeno-san. Throughout the idiot's diatribe, Akeno's eyes grew progressively colder, and her smile became more forced. The temperature in the room started steadily dropping, and Yamada and his mooks could feel some kind of unseen pressure weighing down on their shoulders. Then the most surprising thing happened. Akeno started to giggle. But this giggle was not her usual demure giggle which sent her fans into a haze. This sound was more like the cackling of the Shinigami, according to Yamada, at least, while Yamada and company were struggling to remain focused. Akeno, however, was lost in her own thoughts. Akeno's mind. Akeno-sama, please stop, it hurts. Yamada shouted as he was electrocuted for the umpteenth time. His friends were already passed out in a corner courtesy of a nasty shock, but this peasant who dared insult her beloved would suffer for a long time. She stopped the steady stream of electricity, and Yamada slumped to the ground, nearly dead. He looked like he had seen much better days, and had so many bruises it looked like a big plum. You know, she began, normally, I would have turned you down and we would have gone our separate ways. But then you made a really bad mistake, she said, giggling sadistically, as his eyes widened. I'm so sorry, Akeno-sama, I won't bother you again, please spare me, he wailed hopelessly, like the worm he was. She giggled again, she was really enjoying this. Oh, how I missed this, she thought. Yamada-san, your mistake wasn't asking me out, you know. She began silkily while lightning crackled at her fingertips. Oh no, your mistake was when you spoke about my husband without knowing him. At this point her beautiful face was curled up in a vicious snarl as she shocked him yet another time. She was pissed now. As if a worm like you could even compare to him, you piece of filth. You are but an ant in his presence, she spat. You know nothing of the wonderful man he is, of what he's done for me, and you dare slander his name, she all but shouted, as the poor man recoiled in fear. He shrieked again as she shocked him once more. She was having so much fun. Real world. Akeno was giggling madly while blushing up a storm. Am I a Yandra now? She idly mused. While this was going on, poor Yamada thought that this was a reaction she had to his offer. Emboldened by the response he received, he pressed on. So, about what I asked? He ventured. The game plan was that he would escort Akeno to a local restaurant to meet the guys, but the guys would mysteriously call and cancel, all of them would. Then it would be just him and Akeno-san, and he could finally win her heart and convince her to leave that low-class fool of a ramen chef she called her husband. Oh, it's all going nicely, he thought. How little he knew. Meanwhile, his words had snapped Akeno out of her trance. She turned her focus on the sniveling dolt in front of her. Her frigid gaze made him feel like his soul was being torn apart. Slowly, while restraining her rage, the black-haired beauty asked, Would you care to repeat that, Yamada-san? She absolutely hissed through gritted teeth. Hi. I was asking Dash. I'm afraid I'll have to decline, and please refrain from hitting on married women again, especially me, okay? She interrupted him with a positively saccharine smile. And Yamada-san, please don't say such things about my husband, he might not react kindly to you hitting on his wife and insulting him behind his back. Her smile grew larger, if it was possible. Him not reacting kindly would be an understatement, she thought. The last time such a thing happened was Fallen Angel hit on her when he was nearby. The Fallen was using the cliché ditch this loser and have fun with me bit. He would not take no for an answer and kept bugging her. When she still refused, the crow tried to grab her hand. While she could have easily dealt with that crow herself, she didn't have to, as her husband took him into an alley and broke his wings as well as every bone in the idiot's body. When she came back to the real world, she found that Yamada had already scampered off. She didn't expect much from him anyway. Pushing unnecessary thoughts out of her mind, she went into her office and locked her door. Her office was much better than the storeroom, as she used magic to make it bigger from the inside, like a bastardized version of a rating game dimension. The office was lined with purple wallpaper. It had black leather couches, a mahogany desk for her and a Victorian-style chair. Her office was a beautiful and relaxing place, where she could get away from the boredom of the day. On the desk were many things which were important to her. There was her old orange ribbon, a photo of her circle, and various stationery. The most prominent article, however, was the picture frame in the middle of her desk, which showed her and a blonde man making peace signs and smiling goofily at the camera. She smiled wistfully and skirted her fingers over the glass, checking the door. On finding no one, she prepared her magic. Beneath her feet, an orange spiral mark appeared, which housed images of many animals at different regions of the spiral, ranging from a raccoon to an octopus hybrid. But the most prominent was the regal-looking nine-tailed fox at the center of the spiral. If she didn't know any better, she would have assumed it to be a yokai. It was a testament to her husband's prowess with seals, that instead of letters, the magic in the spell was conveyed by images. The Uzumaki clan crest. Her clan crest, she thought with pride. I'm coming home, and you better have food ready. Naruto-kun. She thought before she vanished in an orange flash. Naruto smiled as he delivered another bowl of piping hot ramen to his customers, a family of 4, who were more or less his regulars. The Nobi family were a cheerful bunch, always smiling, joking, and generally happy. They were also one of the first customers to grace his shop when he relocated to Tokyo, after mysteriously disappearing from his earlier home in Kuo. He couldn't have people wondering how he still looked to be in his 20s, after decades of living there, now could he? The Nobis were a joy to be around. The father, Takashi, was a pretty nice guy, and loved his family a lot, which made Naruto respect the man. His wife, Mia, was a lot like Naruto's own wife, as she loved to tease and mess with people in general. Of course, she didn't enjoy torturing people in her spare time like Akeno did, but it was a welcome change nonetheless. Seated between them were the couple's 2 daughters. They were named Rei and Mei, and they were identical twins. They were absolutely adorable and loved ramen almost as much as he himself did. Breaking out of his thoughts, he greeted them. Hi guys, how's it going? If you need anything else, tell me okay? Mia smiled at him, while Takashi had already started stuffing his face with ramen, earning him a bank on the head from his wife. Thank you Naruto, we're all fine. But we'll probably have some sake, if you would? Sure, I'll bring some over right away. Thank you. She nodded. Girls, what do we say to Uncle Naruto? Thank you Uncle Naru, 2 squeaky voices chirruped, which made Naruto pat their heads, earning him pleasant hums from the kids. It's no problem girls, just eat slowly, 'kay? It's not going anywhere you know. He said while chuckling, which made the twins glare at him, but they just looked like angry puppies. This idle conversation went on till closing time, when the Nobis finally left. Naruto headed to the back to finish cleaning up so that he could go home and make dinner for himself and his wife. His wife had gotten a job with the Gremory business, a name he couldn't remember. It was a far cry from when he met her while she was still in school, and fighting in deathmatches for entertainment. Now, some may ask why she wasn't serving Rias, competing in rating games and so on. It was fairly simple, in reality. Since long-term peace between the 3 factions was achieved, there was not as much of a need as before for devils to restore their numbers. This, along with various objections and outcries about the moral and ethical violations brought about by the evil peace system, led to a massive overhaul in how peerages worked. Ajuka Beelzebub, with the help of Azazel and Michael, came up with a new recruitment system in which free will was greatly emphasized and which could be used by members of any of the 3 factions, to better integrate themselves and further strengthen the peace. The king had to ask the potential member before performing the resurrection, and it had to be done in a free and fair manner. If the Z king did anything with a malicious intent, the Z king, peace inside them would not permit the resurrection. So any trickery, coercion or magic was out of the question, since the Z king peace was bound to the soul of the devil. As long as the devil knew what they were doing, the piece wouldn't reincarnate anyone. Also, those who were revived after death were given 1 week's time to leave the peerage without any consequences, while keeping the second life. Devils were marked as strays only if they committed a crime against their king, or against society in general. Simply leaving the peerage wasn't a crime anymore. This new system was called the Inner Circle system. She was therefore in Rias' inner circle, as queen. The class system in the Devil Society also changed a lot. Many of the old elitist fossils on the council who still advocated purist supremacy were either killed in the war against the Cows Brigade, or replaced by more progressive, competent heirs. Designations like high or low class were more of a formality than any actual indication of ability or prestige. There was noticeably less stigma attached to being low class or reincarnated, and society as a whole was progressing. It was all to make sure another Riser incident or Nekashu incident did not occur again. After the war, she along with all those who played an important role in their victory were given promotions to high class. Hence she could now have her own peerage, while having a lesser responsibility towards Rias. Once the inner circle system became widespread, all existing pieces were converted to the newer system. Due to this, many of the devils who had been forcefully converted in one way or another left their masters, now simply called kings, and went their merry ways. This led to a stop in raiding games until their numbers were restored. Devils were no longer scouting for circle members to show off, and so the system of raiding games gradually became obsolete. Eventually Rias had given her entire circle a chance to forge their own paths from under her shadow, as she had wanted for herself for so long. And that's what she did. Snapping out of his thoughts, Naruto closed up the shop and prepared to hurry home. Who needed fancy magic circles and runes when you could just vanish? As he flashed into his living room, he looked at his wedding photo on the wall, with him hugging Akeno while the both of them were smiling at the camera. His gaze softened as he remembered how they met. Flashback, roughly 40 years ago, KUOH Town. Naruto glared at the person laying in a heap at his feet. Violet Rinnegan pulsed menacingly, with 9 Tomo circling hypnotically in them. He had half a mind to just kill the little shit, but he needed to know. He needed to know why these devils had been bothering him so much lately. Don't get him wrong, he always had 1 or 2 supernaturals bugging him every week. Even though he wasn't actively involved in their affairs, his latent power and aura subconsciously attracted other supernaturals to him like moths to a flame. Be it devils, or fallen angels, or even some yokai. Angels were by far the most preferable, as they had no ill intent towards him. He even had that lowly dragon approach him a time or 2 per month, to join her in helping restore her silence. He honestly did not understand why she could not just go somewhere else to sleep in the infinite abyss of the gap. And he certainly wasn't going to help her kill Great Red. The guy was his friend, after all. The Red Dragon's delinquent personality was a refreshing change to the more snobby and arrogant supernaturals he knew. The guy literally spent his time doing flips and stunts, so of course when Naruto came across him, he had declared that he was going to do better stunts than Red himself, and a rivalry had ensued. The both of them were buddies now. He had met the 2 dragons when he showed up in the dimensional gap, battered and broken, after a mishap in sealing Kaguya. The 2 beings had taken an interest in him, as he had the same power levels as them. This was the sole reason why they hadn't just killed him when he was injured and defenseless. When Naruto had finally settled down in Kuo and opened his shop, these pests had started showing up. He mostly just beat them to a pulp and genjutsu'd away the memories with his eyes, but he was getting fed up now. He wanted to find out what their endgame was, and put a stop to it, so he could live in peace. Sighing in exasperation, he prepared to use one of the jutsu he really hated using. It was everything he had fought against, but in this case it was necessary. It helped that all he could sense from this devil was evil and malice. He placed his hand on the downed man's forehead, and spoke in a low voice. Ninjendo. Naruto stilled momentarily as a rush of memories came into his head from the man's mind, and he finally got his answer. Cows Brigade. Risvium Levon Lucifer. Trehexa. Risavim Levon Lucifer was forming an organization, the main purpose of which was to invade the world using the evil dragons from other dimensions. For that goal, they sought to defeat Great Red, who protected the dimensional gap by reviving the legendary beast, 666, Trehexa. Granted, they weren't anywhere close to executing such plans. It would take them years yet, but it was still troublesome. Naruto was lucky that this devil was a member, or else he wondered how he would have gotten this information. This was a really stupid plan according to him, as so many things could go wrong in it. He would have to inform Red that there were many different factions gunning for him. Seriously, leave the poor guy alone, will ya? Why does everyone want to either kill or banish him for Kami's sake? Let him do his stunts in peace, damn it, he hasn't done anything to anyone. Shaking his head, he created a Kage Bunshin to inform Red about these happenings, and the clone left for the dimensional gap via Yamatsu Hirasaka. Normally, he would be done with it, and would have gone home after closing up the shop. However, this mook had made the mistake of trying to wreck the place, in hopes of luring him out. He had also insulted Ramen. So Naruto ripped the man's soul out of his head and crushed it into oblivion. Sealing the corpse of the devil into a scroll and burning it via Amaterasu, he left to go in and finish cleaning up. He would go home and rest up for tomorrow. Just as he was about to go out and flip the sign, the bell attached to the door chimed, and in walked one of the most beautiful women he had ever seen. She was a young woman with very long black hair and violet eyes. Her hair was tied in a long ponytail, reaching all the way down to her legs with two strands sticking out from the top and sloping backward, with an orange ribbon keeping it in place. Like most of the girls at Kuo Academy, she wore the customary Kuo Academy girls' school uniform, along with black calf-length socks. Just as Naruto was about to snap out of his stupor and apologize for staring, she interrupted him. "Excuse me, but are you open?" she said in a silky voice, almost like it was gliding over his ears. She was smiling angelically at him, but it didn't take him more than one look to discern that her smile was horribly fake, much like his own back when he was a child. It made his interest in her rise even more. "Ah yes, I was just about to close, but I can make an exception for once, you know?" he said, hoping that he didn't come across as a flirt. He just wanted to know more about this woman, not necessarily in a romantic sense. There was something about her, something that drew him to her. She was like her mystery, and that smile certainly had some secrets behind it. He also sensed two conflicting energies from her. A devil-fallen hybrid, eh? I knew this girl was interesting. The girl let out a demure giggle, and smiled even wider. "Thank you, I was really hungry and this is the only place that was open. Could I have your name?" "The name's Uzumaki Naruto, and don't you forget it, you know." Naruto replied, grinning. "And what about you, miss?" "Yufufu, my name is Himejima Akeno. It's nice to meet you, Naruto-san." "Likewise, Akeno-san, please have a seat." "What can I get ya?" he asked, as the girl took a seat on one of the stools. Akeno seemed to be deep in thought as she looked over the menu. Ultimately, she decided on miso ramen, and Naruto went inside to prepare the food. While she waited, she thought over the past few moments. The blonde looked to be about her age, and he had a cute, kind of feral look to him, with those whisker marks of his. His blue eyes were also the most unique pair of eyes she'd seen in quite some time. She idly wondered why he was working and not attending school, but felt like it wasn't her place to ask. One thing was for sure though, she had taken an interest in the blonde. After about 5 minutes, Naruto came back with the order, and set it down in front of her. Akeno looked like she was about to drool any second from the delicious smell of the ramen. Slowly, she dug in and brought the first bite to her dainty lips. As she ate the initial morsel, her eyes widened in surprise. She had never eaten such fabulous food before. Every ingredient was in perfect harmony, and no one taste overpowered any of the others. She was lost in her own world as she ate, and she didn't even remember finishing the whole bowl. Looking up from her food-induced daze, The Ravenette blushed slightly in embarrassment as she caught Naruto looking at her with amusement in her eyes. She had gotten too engrossed in her meal to worry about trivial things like eating speed or manners. Not one to give someone else the last laugh, she tried to embarrass him in retaliation for her own situation. Era Naruto-san, you're looking at me so intensely, she gasped. What is a girl to think? Are you interested in me? She purred, batting her eyelashes. It had to work, she reasoned. Any normal man would have gotten the double entendre and started to blush or sputter in embarrassment. Any normal man, she thought, would be unable to resist her charms. How wrong she was. Huh? She blinked. Once. Twice. She looked at the chef, and the sheer clueless expression of his, accompanied by a cute head tilt, convinced her that he'd understood not a word of what she'd said. He was honestly confused, and she didn't know what to think when this man didn't swoon in her presence or stare at her like an idiot. Her mind offered up the elegant retort of, Yue? Ah, the nerve of this man. He'd managed to not only embarrass her twice, but had done so without doing anything himself. This won't stand, she decided. She was the embarrasser, not the embarrassed. She would find some way to tease him, to make him blush, if it's the last thing she did. She would come back, and she would keep coming back until she achieved her goal. It was the only reason she would even come back to a place like this, she thought half-heartedly. Just to get one over the cute blonde, nothing else. Absolutely nothing to do with the cute blonde whatsoever. It helped that the ramen was delicious, though. Flashback end. It was when Naruto was finishing dinner that he saw the signature flash of orange created by the Uzumaki teleportation circle. He had made the runes from scratch using this world's magic, and it worked wonderfully. Anyone from Naruto's immediate family or anyone he inducted into their clan could use the seal to teleport to a place of their choice, much like all other clan seals. But this one was orange. And it was marvelous. Logistics aside, there was currently just one person in his family capable of using magic, and that meant only one thing. Akeno-chan is home. Creating a clone to finish up with the food, Naruto went to the living room, just in time to see his wife appear out of thin air. She still looked as beautiful as the day they met, and the office attire only added to her appeal. Just as she finished materializing, Naruto promptly glomped her. Akeno-chan. Welcome home, I missed you. He shot off, obviously delighted to see her. How was your day? Did you eat properly? Are you hungry? Did you dash? Akeno sighed fondly as her husband continued to rattle on with his mundane questions. While many other women would hate when their husbands fussed over them, she loved it quite a bit. Those idiot floozies didn't know what they were missing. A caring husband who loves you unconditionally, is really handsome, and cooks for you. She'd be stupid to get annoyed at him for that. Plus, his mother hen personality was very charming, in her opinion. Still, she was tired due to a long day at work in Yamada, and as much as she loved her husband, she needed silence right now. She just wanted to relax and eat whatever tasty dinner he had cooked for them. Naruto was cut off when Akeno placed a finger to his lips, halting his inquiries. His cheeks tinged pink at being caught rambling again, and his embarrassment was only amplified after seeing that smug look on her face. She knew exactly what she was doing, the minx. It wasn't his fault. He couldn't help but fuss over her when she came back looking all tired like that. What kind of husband would he be if he failed to identify when his wife was stressed? Naruto knew she didn't mind, but Akeno loved to tease him. Well, he would see how she liked it when he teased her in return. Naruto flinched back from her and looked at her as if she'd slapped him. Mustering the most hurt expression he could manage, he looked at his wife, going incredibly still. His face was void of emotion, and the only way Akeno could tell that his feelings were hurt was from his eyes, which displayed a profound sorrow. Oh Naruto, you fabulous actor, you dot. He cackled, praising himself inwardly. Seeing as his message hadn't entirely gone across, Naruto decided to up his game. Slumping his shoulders in defeat, His face remained blank as he let out a long-suffering sigh. He looked away from Akeno, and began in a monotone voice. "I'm sorry for being so overbearing, Akeno," he got out, using a small amount of Suetun chakra for added tears. "I will try to tone it down from now on. You probably don't like me being so clingy." He continued, looking worse than a kicked puppy. "Aha." He cheered mentally when he saw Akeno's eyes widening in shock. She must be thinking that he misunderstood her actions, he mused. She must be thinking that she had hurt him. Not one to quit while he was ahead, Naruto pressed on. Turning away from her, he started dragging his feet towards the kitchen, maintaining his beaten posture. "A clone will bring you dinner, Akeno," he said, purposely dropping the chan for added effect. "I'll just be inside for a while." He turned to her and gave her a sad smile. "I'll try to be better in the future." All throughout his monologue, Akeno was getting more and more distraught. She had grabbed the handle of the couch and was staring at him with a wide, shocked gaze. Seeing as he had teased her enough, Naruto decided to end the joke. He could never bear seeing such despair on his wife's face, prank be damned. But before he could get a word in, Akeno blitzed him and crashed into his chest, hugging him tightly. Naruto instinctively wrapped his arms around her, and he realized that she was shivering, no, trembling. Crap. Now I've gone and hurt her, he thought. He sometimes took his pranks too far and didn't know when to stop. Just as he was about to console his clearly distraught wife, she began speaking. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, I didn't mean to imply that I didn't like it," she declared, looking up at him with big watery eyes. "I always love it when you fuss over me and take care of me." She had tears rolling down her cheeks now. "I shouldn't take your love for granted." Akeno was sobbing by now, each hiccup feeling like a sucker punch to Naruto's heart. She hugged him tightly and wailed some more. "I'm so sorry, Naruto-kun, I'm a terrible wife. Please forgive me, I'm the worst. I'm horrible, selfish and dash." Naruto interrupted her by hugging her back fiercely, in a bid to comfort her in her frazzled state. He really was the worst, wasn't he? He made his lovely wife cry, and for what? A prank? Unacceptable. He was Naruto Uzumaki, he lived for his precious people, and he'd just made his most precious person break down and cry. He needed to fix this, and fast. He would apologize to Akeno, and then he would beg and grovel until she forgave him. No prank war was worth his wife's happiness. So, Naruto broke their embrace and cupped her face in his hands tenderly. He was about to wipe her tears and comfort her, only to find her smirking. Why was Akeno smirking? Wasn't she crying a minute ago? Naruto decided to recap the past few minutes. His wife had returned home after a long day at work, and she'd embarrassed him by cutting off his rambling. Then he had decided to tease her as payback. Seeing the gears turn in her husband's head, Akeno let out a demure giggle. He was so cute when he tilted his head and acted all intelligent. Era Naruto-kun, did you think that I would let your teasing slide?" she asked, giving him an amused glance. "We have been married for decades, husband. I know all your tells by now." She saw his eyes widen in realization, making her giggle even more. He pouted in anger, "but he just looked adorable. My wife is so mean to me, it makes me think you don't want the katsudon I made." Naruto put a finger under his chin, a mirthful gleam in his eye. The jab seemed to work, seeing as the teasing expression on Akeno's face was gone. She was staring far off into space, and her eyes were glazed over. Her lips were slightly parted, and a little bit of drool was waking through. Naruto smirked when he saw his wife's state. She always did love his cooking. Whenever his delicious meals were even mentioned, she lost all semblance of her Yamato Nadeshiko personality. It was fun and downright adorable to see the drastic change in Akeno's nature. It was how they met in the first place, after all. Katsudon, with sake. Akeno trailed off, still imagining the meal she would be having. Suddenly, the meaning of his previous words struck her. Her eyes snapped towards Naruto, and she was in front of him in a flash. "Fine, dear husband, you win this time. Now can we please eat?" she said, with a fire in her eyes. Puffing out his chest in pride at winning their tiny prank war, Naruto ruffled his wife's air, earning an indignant pout from her. "Akeno-chan, go and freshen up, okay? I'll have dinner set up by then." Seeing her enter their room to do just that, Naruto went about setting the table. It was almost an automatic task by now, which gave him the time to reminisce. He never would have thought that he would find such a loving wife. With his less-than-ideal childhood in his homeworld, he had developed a warped definition of love. He did not understand the difference between romantic love and familial love, never having experienced either of the two. Towards the end of the Fourth Shinobi War, a mishap in sealing Kaguya had made him immortal. He had but an hour to grasp the concept, and his initial conclusions had been unsettling at best. If he was to be immortal, anyone he held precious would die before his very eyes. It would take years or even decades, but they would pass all the same. And he would be forced to watch them slip by. He would be all alone, as even Kurama had been taken from him. Then, due to Kaguya's crazy jutsu, he got flung into a dimension where immortals were a dime a dozen. Talk about twisted luck. Seeing as he had no qualifications and/or skills, he had opened up a ramen shop after persuading the right people for permits and papers, of course. It was there that he met the woman who would go on to become his wife in the future. After their initial meeting, she came to the shop quite often, trying to embarrass him or get a rise out of him. Seeing as he was as dense as a brick back then, she failed spectacularly. Her interest in him evolved with time, and it didn't take her long to realize his issues. He had told her about his past after the first year, and she had done the same. Needless to say, she was not amused when told about his childhood. Even more so about his skewed concept of love, but that was easily fixed. She had literally zapped the concept of love into his head. They started dating shortly after and got engaged and married in quick succession. Both were headstrong individuals after all, and they weren't the sort to beat around the bush. He was snapped out of his musings when Akeno came out in her violet pajamas, an angelic smile on her beautiful face. He couldn't help but stare at her beauty. Even after being married for so long, he was still mesmerized by her radiance. He could just gaze at her for hours on end without rest. Not that she minded, of course. She liked to be admired and appreciated by her loving husband. Akeno caught him staring at her and smirked mentally. Now was the time to strike, to get him back for her earlier defeat. She put a hand on her cheek and tilted her head, fluttered her eyelashes at him and asked in a sweet voice. "Yufufu, Anata, you like what you see?" She inquired with a purr. "Close your mouth, dear, you'll catch flies." Now she would wait for his reaction. She waited for him to flush in embarrassment, to sputter out nonsense and try to form coherent sentences. But alas, Naruto lived up to his title and did something unpredictable. He closed the distance between them with boundless love in his eyes, gently embraced Akeno and kissed her forehead. Caught off guard by this sudden change in events, Akeno couldn't speak, but Naruto did. "You're so adorable, Akeno-chan. I really am the luckiest idiot in the world to have you as my wife." When she heard his words, Akeno gained a steady blush on her cheeks. Steam was about to erupt from her ears, that's how embarrassed she was. The last straw was when Naruto tucked her head under his chin, which prompted her to nuzzle her face into his shoulder. "It's not fair," she lamented inwardly. "I'm supposed to be the teaser here, and then he goes and says something like that. She didn't show it, but Akeno felt extremely giddy from their earlier exchange. It was always like this with them, she mused. Akeno would try to tease him and get a reaction out of him, and he would say the sweetest and most loving things which would shut down her brain and make her blush like a fangirl. She never could understand how he got such a reaction out of her, but she didn't care. For Naruto and only for him, she could tolerate being the one embarrassed. If that was the price of hearing his lovely compliments, she didn't mind. They stayed in their position for some time. Akeno recalled all that this blonde buffoon had done for her. He had fed her countless times and saved her life even more times. He helped her reconcile with her father, and even brought forth her mother's soul via the king of hell so that she could get some closure. But most importantly, he had given her his unconditional love. Due to her traumatic childhood, she had an immense hatred for fallen angels. When they told each other their pasts, he had held her until she recounted her tale, and comforted her while she sobbed. Then he had asked to see her wings. She had been apprehensive at first, to show her darkest secret, the part of her she hated most, to another. But she trusted Naruto, and so she did. She unfurled her wings and waited with bated breath. Waited for him to call her wings ugly, or tainted, or some such. He called them fluffy, tactless as he was. Akeno felt relieved all the same. They got married shortly after that, much to her delight. She looked at her husband, who was now setting the table while she waited. He had spent his whole life fighting, and when he came to their world, he just wanted to relax. Hence he had dabbled into cooking, for which she was ever thankful. Akeno was just as lucky to have found him as he was. In the world full of arrogant and snobbish supernaturals, she had found one of the few people who were unflinchingly loyal, devoted, and kind. Even after 40 years, he had eyes only for her, loved only her. She always enjoyed making his fangirls jealous, whenever they went out together. Akeno-chan, food is ready. Nodding in happiness, she dug into her meal, along with him. The food was delicious as always, with the perfect sweet sake paired with it. She then noticed her husband holding out a spoonful of food towards her, his intent clear. Say Akeno-chan. Naruto said, grinning at her. Anata, I am not a kid anymore. She replied while rolling her eyes, smiling softly. I know that, dear, but can't a husband spoil his wife from time to time? You always spoil me, Naruto-kun. Naruto's grin grew even wider, his eyes twinkling with love, and you deserve nothing less. Instead of getting embarrassed again, Akeno quickly ate the offered food and looked away, a small tinge of pink on her face. Just as she was about to recover and get a jab in. My wife is so cute, Naruto wailed dramatically while glomping her sideways. And just like that, the blush was back. Akeno didn't know why she was surprised. Naruto was an incredibly expressive person. For someone who was starved of affection, he had found someone to love, someone who loved him back just as much. And he spared no expense pampering her and showering her with his love and care. She wouldn't trade it for the world. Deciding to change the subject, Naruto asked, so tell me about your day, were you still bored? Akeno glared at him in anger. And whose fault is that, mister? She jabbed a finger at him accusingly. You're the one who convinced me about responsibilities and whatnot, she huffed. Not breaking their side hug, Naruto replied. Because you had a contract, Akeno-chan, and you know it. You can't just use magic to get out of your problems, that's a shortcut. You know how I feel about those, he admonished, poking her nose. Besides, you only have 1 month left anyway, then we can work at the shop together, he exclaimed with his usual enthusiasm. Sighing in resignation, Akeno nodded. There was no winning with him when it came to work ethic. Yamatabaka approached me today. She began, earning an interested look from her husband. He was spouting bullshit about how you don't deserve me and that I should date him instead, she spat with a disgusted look. Instantly, Naruto's expression changed from interested to worried. Is he okay? Akeno twitched. What kind of a question is that, Anata? Shouldn't you be asking him if I'm okay? No, I asked correctly, came the reply. Is he alive with his mind and body intact? Akeno gasped. How can you imply something like that, husband dear? She looked hurt. Upon receiving the flattest deadpan ever, she sighed and relented. He's fine, I wanted to torture him but didn't. Could have broken a bone or two, though, the last part was muttered, but he heard her all the same. That's my girl, I'm proud of you. Naruto beamed. We should never care what others think about us, I know I never did. Akeno wholeheartedly agreed. The rest of the meal went by without a hitch, with the couple making idle conversation and just enjoying each other's presence. As night fell, Naruto and Akeno eventually retired to their bedroom. They cuddled up to each other and thought the same thing before being claimed by slumber. I love you, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you. And that brings us to the end of today's Sunday special one-shot. Whether today's story came from Naruto, High School DxD, or any other amazing series, I hope you enjoyed this special journey through the world of fanfiction. What a wonderful adventure it was, filled with memorable characters, heartfelt moments, exciting interactions, and the kind of storytelling that keeps us coming back for more. If you enjoyed this one-shot, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to FanficLover, and turn on notifications so you never miss another Sunday special or fanfiction adventure. Let me know in the comments what you thought of today's story and which series or fanfiction you'd like to see featured next. Thank you for spending your time with me today, and until our next journey through the world of fanfiction. This is FanficLover, signing off. Stay safe, stay awesome, keep imagining, and keep enjoying the world of fanfiction.